Hi everyone, Janie here, and today I'm going to show you how to make this 3D pop-up window card that lays flat for mailing, but when the recipient opens it, it pops up. And this is just such a fun card. I love it. And I saw this for the first time just a few days ago. Lynn from LV Handcrafted made a video for Graphic 45, and her tutorial is so much better than mine, and her card is gorgeous, and so you really do have to watch her video as well, and I'm going to have that linked below in the description box. But today I am making this card for one of my granddaughters. Well, actually, I've already made this card for one of my granddaughters, but I am going to take you through the making of it so that you can learn how to make one yourself. So let's get started. Since I'm making this birthday card for one of my granddaughters, I decided to use the Inlovearts Cupcake Stamp and Die set that comes in this nice plastic storage pouch so that you can store the stamp and die set together. And this set comes with 2 cupcake stamps and 7 sentiment stamps and 4 cutting dies, 1 for each of the cupcakes and 2 for 2 of the sentiments. To stamp the image and sentiment that I'm going to be using, I used my Creative Craft Products stamp platform and Memento Luxe Gray Flannel Mixed Media ink. If you would like to see the review and demo on that stamp platform, I'll put a link here on the screen, but it's only available from Craft Stash in the UK, and I'll have a link to that below in the description box as well. So, with that particular ink, I usually have to stamp twice, but as you can see, the stamped image came out beautifully. And next, I'm stamping the sentiments using Memento Tuxedo black ink. And those stamped beautifully as well. I used my Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers to color that sweet cupcake image, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. And then I used my Sizzix Big Shot Switch Plus to die cut the cupcake and the sentiment, and they came out perfect. And the happy birthday sentiment I stamped, and then I die cut around that with a label die from my stash. I also die cut 2 more of the cupcakes because I'm going to glue them to the back of the cupcake to make it a little sturdier for the way that I'm going to be using it. Okay, for this card you're going to need 4 pieces of cardstock measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and those will create the card base. And I'm using 2 different colors of cardstock, but of course you can just use 1 color. And you're going to need 8 pieces of pattern paper for layering that are 2 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And when the time comes, you might want to trim that down just a hair on the 2-inch side. And you're also going to be needing 2 pieces that are 4 1/2 by 4 3/4. And that could be pattern paper or solid. And the last 2 little pieces you're going to need are 3/4 of an inch by 2 3/4 of an inch. And again, those can be pattern or solid. They really aren't going to be seen. And here are all of my pieces cut out and ready to go. So let's get started making this 3D pop-up window card. So the first thing I'm going to do with the 4 1/4 inches across the top and the 5 1/2 down the side, I'm going to score it in half, which will be at 2 1/8, which is the line right past the 2. And so I'm going to do that to all 4 of these pieces. And once I do that, I'm going to be folding them all in half right along the score line. So let me finish up this one right here. Okay, and now I'm just going to fold them all in half just like that, and I'll be right back. So after folding them all in half, I used some double-sided tape, and I used 1/4 of an inch. You can use 1/2 inch, whatever size you want, or you don't have to use double-sided tape at all. You can just use your glue. I'm using both. And also, you only want to put it on one side and not the other side. And the reason is because you're going to be gluing these together, and so it only needs to be on one side. So by doing it this way, they will match up just like that. Of course, this is not the order I'm putting them in, Well, actually, it kind of might be. But I just wanted you to see that the tape only needs to go on one side, or that the glue only needs to go on one side. So next, I am going to be removing the double-sided tape. And also, I'm going to be alternating these. So I will be gluing this light pink to a bright pink. Okay, so I've removed that. I am using my beacon. I don't want to cover up the double-sided tape. It kind of defeats the purpose. So what I'm going to do is, instead of going this direction, I'm going to go across, okay? And that way I'm covering other areas, plus I'm getting wiggle room, which I am definitely going to need. So I'm going to line these two up, and it's really important that you get them lined up evenly so that everything matches up. Okay. There we go. And you want to make sure that you didn't cross over the line here, which is why I laid them flat together so that I know that they are both equal. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing all the way around. If you were doing this all with one color cardstock, this probably would not confuse you. I'm doing it with two different color cardstocks, so I'm going to be alternating them for a different look. Okay? Something I want to point out to you. Sometimes when we cut our papers, one might be longer than the other. We didn't get it exactly on that line. And so as you can see, let me see if I can get it up here so you can see it. There's that showing right there. On this side, there's just a little bit. What you can do afterwards is just put it in your paper trimmer and go around and trim it so that it's not showing like that. So this will be attaching to the side. But first, I'm going to get glue all over the place and attach these two. Now what's really nice is there's an edge there that I'm pushing this up against because the layers make it, a little bit thick right there. So, doing my best to make sure that everything lines up. Like I said, I'm going to go around and I'm going to trim off anything that isn't even. So that leaves this right here, the last piece to do. And so I was going to just buzz right through this, but I thought that maybe you guys really need to see this, because it isn't complicated, but it may look complicated if you're just not sure how all of these pieces are going to go together. So there we go. Now I'm just going to fold these two together, and I'll be honest with you, Lynn does a much better job at this than I do, and I really do hope you watch her tutorial, because you may learn something different than what I'm showing you here, and also because her card is much more beautiful than my card. So mine is not perfect, not going to pretend that it is, but I'm going to go trim off these little extra pieces, and then I'll come back and we'll put the layers on. Okay, it's time to start gluing the layers on, and before I do that, I want to point out a couple of things. One, when gluing them on, you want to put the layers right up next to the fold line, but not over it, because you don't want there to be any problems folding. So keep that in mind, be very careful of that. The other thing is, if you do not like the size of the border and you want the border to be skinnier, then cut your layers a little bit bigger. So, you know, like where I cut mine at 1 7/8, you may want it at 2 inches, and you may also want it to be a little bit longer. Totally up to you. But now I'm going to start gluing these pieces on. Now for the two pieces that are 4.5 inches by 4 3/4 inches, you want to lay them on your scoreboard with the 4.5 inches across the top right here, and we are going to score that at a 1/2 inch. Sorry, my fingers are getting in the way here, but at a 1/2 inch and at 4 inches. So that is a 1/2 inch from each end or each side. And we're going to do the same thing with this, making sure that it is at 4.5 inches and 4 3/4 inches. And so again, we're going to score at a 1/2 inch and at 4 inches. And we're just going to fold those in like so. And those pieces are done for now. But eventually we're going to be putting an aperture in the center of them. And for those little pieces that were 3/4 of an inch by 2 3/4 inch, we are going to score those at, my hand's here in the way, I want you to be able to see it here, but we're going to score at a 1/2 inch and 1 1/4 inches. 1 1/2 inches and 2 1/4 inches. And that piece is done, and we're just going to fold on all of those score lines just like so. And I'll show you more how it works later, but we're going to be gluing these ends down, and then we're going to be gluing our image right there. So again, this gets scored at a 1/2 inch, 1 1/4 inches, 1 1/2 inches, and 2 1/4 inches. And that is all of our scoring for right now. So let's move on. Next, you need to create an opening or an aperture in this piece, the piece that had the two edges that we scored and folded. And you want your opening to be big enough that your other image is going to show through. And I think this is going to work just fine, because you don't want your opening here to be so large that it affects the sturdiness of this piece. So we don't want to compromise that in any way. So I think this is just the right size, and I'm going to go die cut that from that piece and from this piece as well. And I'm doing mine right in the center. You can do it up higher if you would like. You can do it down lower if you would like. But I think mine is going to be just right in the center. Next, I'll be putting the aperture pieces on, and you have to decide what is going to be the front and what is going to be the back of your card. And I could have just as easily made these sections the front and back, but these are the sections that I want to be the front and back. And also I wanted to point out, when making your aperture, which by the way, mine is off center, okay? Just want to tell you I'm not perfect, all right? But when making it, if it's too big and your flaps are kind of showing through a little bit, what you can do is either grab your scissors and just kind of trim those edges off, or when you're die cutting, have them folded under, and then when you cut it, it will cut it so that it's, as you can see, it's curved like that so it doesn't show through. And so I wanted to show you that first. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm taking my 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and I'm just going to be putting it right down the edge, right by where this fold is. And, you know, obviously not over the fold, but just really close to that edge. And then I'll be putting wet glue on the inner part, but this part, I just wanted to make sure that it grabbed right away when I put it on. So that's why I'm putting the double-sided tape down this side, or down the outer edge. And also, before I do that, I want to miter the edges a little bit, just to make them not so obvious. So, you know, if they go all the way up to the top, then they're very visible. And it's not like it's a big deal, but it's just my choice. And I'm making a mess here. Okay, so I'm just gonna do one side at a time, just so I make sure everything's in place. And obviously I'm using my wet glue because I need the wiggle room. I don't know about you guys, and I know I say it a lot. I'm actually putting a couple more dots on that part too. Okay, so doing this on camera. Just hold on a second here. You want everything to lay flat. You want your card to lay flat when you are doing this. Okay? And you want to try to get everything equal so that, you know, you don't have one side more covered than the other. Okay, so with that side done, I'm going to do this one. And then I will do the other side. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the other side off camera, since you've already seen it done once. But as I'm showing you, make sure your card is flat when you do this, because that's what's going to make everything pop up. Okay, so see, now it pops up. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side with this one, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have done both sides. And now it's time for those little strips. Earlier you may have noticed that I cut 2 different pattern papers, and that was a mistake, because I actually need 2 that are the same, because I want them to match the background paper, and I have the same pattern paper on both sides. And another thing I want to point out is we have a 1/4 inch area here in the middle when we were scoring, and that is where our focal image is going to get attached. So what I'm going to do is, first, I'm gonna grab my scissors really quick, because I also want to kind of miter these edges as well, just like I did on the other little flaps. And it's just, in my opinion, a nicer look. So I'm going to get that done, and then what we're going to do is glue these in flat so that they pop up just like that piece that has the aperture. So we are going to be putting the glue on the patterned paper side. That's going to be going down like that. So let me put a little glue right here and right there, and you can use double-sided tape for this, I guess I just decided to use glue, and I'm going to find the center, and I'm going to make sure, and you can't see this on camera, I know for a fact you can't, but I've got those little lines on either side of the fold, so that kind of helps me know where the center is. And I actually slid that down a little bit right there. So we have that done, and while that is drying, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And then we will add our little pop-up features. So put that on there and get that as close to the center as I can. All right, so back to the front of the card. What I'm going to do next is glue, hold on one second, where'd they go? I'm going to glue these layers together just because I want this piece to be sturdier. So I'm going to do that off camera while this is drying, and it's, you know, already dry, but I'm going to let it dry a little bit longer, and I'll be right back. Okay, now it's time to add my Inlovearts Cupcake, and I absolutely love this stamp and die set, and I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. It is just awesome. And by the way, putting the layers together like that makes it really sturdy. So you could do something like that and make a tag with this, or, you know, anything you want to be dimensional that you want sturdy. I love the way that that came out. So that was a great idea I had, gluing those together. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is add some glue right there to that little 1/4 inch section that I told you about, that you know is there when you make this because you scored that and you can see it even though you can't see it right now. And I'm just going to slide this in and kind of line it up right where I want it. I'm going to lay this down a little bit so I can get it centered just how I want it. And okay, there we go. Hopefully I did not spread glue everywhere else and this is glued to places it shouldn't be. But I think it's going to be just fine. Look at that. I love it. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over, and on the back side I die cut a circle that's the exact same size as that circle right there, and then I added that sentiment that says sending sprinkles of joy, and I just thought it was so perfect because the paper that I use, let me get that up there, it has sprinkles on it, so it's just perfect. So let me make sure that I'm facing the right direction, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add the glue right there in that little center section. And then, because this is the same size, all I have to do is just flatten this out and line it up. And as you notice, I left enough room down here where you can sign your name, in this case where I can sign my name. And so I don't know if that was a mistake using the exact same size circle. That may or may not have been a mistake. But probably should have used one size smaller because it is catching on the sides a little bit. But I still think it will be okay. So hold on a second here. There we go. Okay, so there is that. And so when this thing stands up, everything pops. I don't know, I'll show you that way so you can see that this pops up, and then the image or sentiment, whatever you have in there, that pops up as well, and it will stand like that. So that way, this side, here I'll turn it so it's facing you. This side could be facing one direction, and you know, like if you have it on your desk or somewhere, and this side could be facing the other direction. And you can add a lot more to this, more decorations. But as you know, I'm keeping things simple because I don't have a lot of supplies right now. And by the way, I forgot, this is a happy birthday sentiment. And I was going to pop it up, but then I decided there's too much pop-up already on here. So I'm just going to put that happy birthday sentiment right there. That looks about center to me. Make sure everything looks straight. So now it says happy birthday. And I'm actually going to want that flat while it dries. So I'm going to go lay something on that. And then this would be about the time that I would be adding enamel dots or a bow or any other embellishments that I really don't have. And I kind of feel really bad because I really want to dress this up and make it super cute. But you all know I don't have a craft room at the moment and limited craft supplies. But while that's drying, I'm going to go see if I have something else that I might be able to add to this. Okay, I decided I didn't want to add any more dimension to the card because I wanted it to fit nicely in an envelope. But I did find a couple of things to add a little pizzazz to the card. So one of the things that I did was I added some gloss to that cherry on top. You can see the reflection there. And actually it did add a little dimension. And I did that with Nouveau Crystal Drops in Morning Dew, which dries clear. And then I had some pink jewel stickers that have been in my stash for about 10 years. And they are actually flat. And I'll show you those in a minute. But let me see if I can get it up there. You can see it right there by the birthday. And also on the top of all of the cupcakes. So I just thought it added some much needed bling to this card, and I really wish that you could see it. I'm trying to move it around, hoping that the light catches it, but they are just awesome. Let me show you. They are stickers that are, look at that, flat, but they're so sparkly and pretty, and actually at first glance they do look dimensional on here, but they're not. And so that completes my birthday card. On the back here, I'm going to, sign my name, from Grandma. But this is ready to go. This card fold has so many possibilities, and I really do hope that you watch Lynn's video that I have linked below, because you are going to love what she did with her card. And also below in the description box, you're going to find a link to the Inlovearts Cupcake Stamp and Die Set that I used, along with a 25% off discount code to Inlovearts, and there will also be links to the Sizzix Big Shot Switch Plus and other products that I used today. Thank you all so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate the time you take to watch my videos and leave me your wonderful comments. I always love to hear what you have to say. So until next time, happy crafting, everyone. Bye-bye.